Hey there, everyone. Ervin here, and as you may or may not already know, patch 0.1.0D was just dropped on us, featuring some pretty big changes for Path of Exile 2's early access, like omnidirectional passive blocking, being able to roll out of the Beatles gangbang, and Bone Shatter no longer gaslighting you into thinking your accuracy was just too low. And they even indirectly buffed the Blood Mage Ascension by buffing Leech. An Ascension so bad it made my friend with 8 years of Path of Exile 1 experience rage quit and reroll. These were all great changes, but there was one that had the community almost immediately up in arms. The changes to trigger gems and energy gain, stating trigger gem energy gain was not in the right place and it was far too easy to use ailments to trigger spells, which it was. One problem with the previous system is that if we balanced it to make triggering happen in boss fights, the triggering would happen far too often during clearing. In order to address this, we have now made monster power part of the calculation for energy gain. This means that it's far easier to trigger skills from unique monsters than it is for normal monsters, but you can also hit many more normal monsters when fighting. And this is really the relevant part and context behind our topic today. This change has the cast on freeze sorceress players crying out that Comet is dead, indicating the change has likely had the effect GG intended, and that was fine for me as I had no desire to remove the gameplay from the game with this strategy. But here's the thing, it's created another monster entirely due to this being a sweeping change to the way all cast on ailment gems accumulate. My ball lightning cast on shock lightning arrow ranger is now completely broken. So, to break down what's going on here, they reduce the amount of charge gained through hitting weaker enemies like minions by a very large amount, down to about one fourth the rate it was before. But they seem to have at the same time raised the amount generated against bosses, which was, in my opinion, a mistake, as it was already proccing at a pretty decent rate without even completely optimizing the strategy we're about to discuss. So my build was already extremely good at proccing cast on shock ball lightning as it was, due to how the skill lightning rod works. You see, lightning rod fires up to 20 rods at the same time into the ground around your target, all of which capable of causing shock, and therefore accumulating energy for the cast on shock gem. Especially when we load the lightning rod up with the scattershot support gem for 2 additional projectiles per cast and conduction for 100% more shock chance. Note that more means a multiplicative increase. So this gem is doubling the chance this skill has to shock after adding up all our shock chance nodes throughout the passive tree. Throw in the fact that we're playing Deadeye with this build, getting an extra projectile through our ascendancy and firing an additional arrow with a dual string bow, and now we can lay down all 20 lightning rods in just 4 casts of the skill. So that's already 20 potential procs on any target within 2.4 meters of the triggering rod. But we also need to factor in taking Catapult and the nodes leading up to it, granting us an additional 31% area of effect, as well as our Magnified Effect support gem, giving us a further 50% multiplicative increase to the AoE, totaling at 4.7 meters. So anything within 4.7 meters of any of these rods is likely to be shocked, triggering the cast on shock gem, also known as almost all of them against a stationary target. We then take this yet another step too far with Voltaic Mark, causing the target to be shocked multiplicatively 50% even more often, and stun the boss utilizing electrocution through the use of Electrocuting Arrow, a skill that forces a clunky leaping animation, firing a lightning rod directly into the target, causing all incoming lightning damage to build up electrocution. When triggered, electrocution stuns the target, leaving it immobilized for 5 full seconds, which, on top of leaving the target completely uninteractive for us, also triggers our Thunderstruck passive node for, yes, even more shock chance. So now we set the boss up with our Electrocution arrow, throw on the Voltaic Mark, and launch a Stormcaller arrow for good measure, which is then going to trigger our lightning exposure and strip away support gems we have loaded up onto it for another multiplicative 26% extra damage through the exposure debuff it applies. And now the fun begins. Because by firing our lightning arrow through this mess to get the ball rolling, no pun intended, the ball lightning fires. But wait, as we spoke about, this is a Deadeye build, so that extra projectile ascendancy point is duplicating the ball lightning. The ball travels through the lightning rods, triggering an absurd amount of shock procs on the boss through the lightning rods. And because we load the rest of the cast on shock gem up with impetus for an additional 40% more energy gain, and energy retention, which gives the gem a 35% chance to refund half the energy cost back instantly, this all comes together for disturbing results, as this causes enough buildup to trigger an infinite loop of cast on shock activations, firing an infinite stream of ball lightning spells as long as the lightning rods stay active and your mana pool isn't emptied, as the lightning rods can only trigger up to a maximum of 13 times or more depending on the gem's level. So as long as you keep laying down more lightning rods and keep pumping those mana flasks, this infinite loop, even with relatively unoptimized gear, instantly fries every neuron within the boss within seconds, all while it's hard CC'd. Basically recreating the problem child that brought the change upon the game to begin with, just now in a slightly different shade of blue. So, if this build's so powerful now, why am I unhappy about it? Well, because up until this patch, this was a really strong build, but not quite a broken one. It would trigger the ball lightning pretty consistently, yeah, but it wasn't causing insta-win meltdowns to this magnitude. Now that I've received a free win button from GG, it's almost demotivating to continue playing the build that I was enjoying to such a high degree. I made an entire build video on it to share it with as many other players as possible because it doesn't feel as though there will be any challenge left if I do, which is why I made this video you're watching now. You've likely been around the YouTube space, seeing all the crazy builds currently being lined up on the chopping block for overperforming, and now that I've made this video, I'm hoping it leads to a wider spread awareness that this change has created a build capable of perpetual damage at an infinite rate as long as you continue to cast new lightning rods and drink from your mana flask, hopefully causing GG to further tweak this change back towards where it used to be and fast, so that I can continue grinding through the endgame without feeling like the build I love is practically a cheat code. To this end, I've left a link to my build posted to Mobalytics down below, as well as the original full in-depth 20-minute guide that'll take you through everything you need to go from level 1 to endgame. If you enjoyed this video, and only if you enjoyed it, I'd thank you if you'd like and comment on the video, as well as subscribe to the channel, as I'm currently attempting to branch out into making consistent high-quality content for Path of Exile 2, and it would really help me towards doing so. Thank you to my coffee supporters for helping to keep the channel alive, and thank you for watching till the end. I'll see you next time.